Broadcasting from the Woodpecker Studio in the great state of New Hampshire. Welcome to the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcasts. So You Wanna, a vignette series where we share post-hike reflections, challenges, lessons learned, and essential insights to prepare you for your next adventure in the White Mountains and beyond. So let's get started, shall we?
All right. So hello, I am Mike, the co-host of the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast. So welcome to another episode of So You Want to Hike. This week we are hiking the Wildcats. So we're going to talk about the Wildcat Ridge, located in the heart of the White Mountains of New Hampshire. The Wildcat Range offers a rugged, scenic, and seriously rewarding adventure. Known for its steep ascents, dense forest trails, and jaw-dropping views of Mount Washington and the Presidential Range, hiking the Wildcats is no walk in the park. It's actually a walk in the woods, JT. See what I did there?
Pretty good.
Yeah, that was impressive. All right, so, but that's why we're here. We want to talk about the Wildcats. So whether you're aiming to check off a few more 4,000 footers or you just want to push your limits, this hike delivers a true backcountry experience. So lace up those trail runners, pack some grit, and let's hit the trail. So I'm joined today by my nephew and Slasher podcast superfan, JT Twiggs.
Hello.
How you doing, JT?
Good. How are you?
This is the first time you've done a podcast?
This is the first time I've done a podcast.
Are you nervous?
No, not really.
Okay, so
There's to be nervous about.
All right. JT is he's an ice cold man. So he is currently a senior in high school. He's an avid hiker, a musician, and an all-around great guy. So we're excited to have him join us to share his experience hiking the Wildcats. Let's go.
Let's do it.
All right. So, JT, why don't we start off by introducing you? So how old are you right now? You're 18?
I'm 18 now. Yes.
You're 18. When did you turn 18?
November.
November, yeah. I remember you when you were a little kid. And then you are my nephew, so we are related.
We are.
Right?
That's correct.
You're on like Mrs. Mike's side of the family. So why don't you start by telling the listeners your earliest memories of Uncle Mike?
Some of my earliest memories of Uncle Mike, I remember one of my earliest things, especially with hiking, is used to take like us as like a family when we were up in Maine to some, smaller hikes especially for, because we were all younger. I remember doing those a lot. Those were great because that's what really got me interested in hiking, being outdoors like that. But I mean, you're my uncle. I've known you my whole life.
Right. So is it fair to say that like you hanging out with me is what has motivated you to continue hiking?
I mean, let's not give too much credit, but
come on, you got to build me up a little bit.
I think you're definitely the person in my life who hikes the most. So I would honestly, I'd probably give you most of the credit.
Okay. Now, I did want to, before we get into the Wildcats, I did want to talk about how you almost died on Mount Washington this summer.
Right.
So why don't you just give a brief summary of your failed attempt on hiking Mount Washington and how you had to call for the train to rescue you?
Well, it was we were cutting it close with time. We got up fine, we summited fine, and then we got to the top and we looked at the time and we're like, there's no way we're gonna make it back in time for some dinner. So we ended up taking the train back down. And it's definitely not one of my proudest moments in my hiking career.
And who had did you, so what's the process for having to get like a train ticket? Did you have to go to like the front desk in the observatory and just ask them like, can I buy it? Or did you tell them like we can't hike down because we're weak?
No, they there was a lot of people actually who did the same thing, and they had just the desk in there where you buy like the tickets. We just went up to them, and the guy was kind of giving us, this is maybe a good idea because it was really rainy that day, which was kind of another reason why we honestly wimped out from hiking back down. But he's like, this is probably a good call, safe call for you guys. And then, he just bought the tickets and took the way back down.
All right. So we bring this up because I just want the listeners to understand that JT is an experienced hiker. He's faced adversity. He's hiked with me multiple times. And, I wanted to just share a little bit of your resume, the good, bad, and ugly.
Right.
So, okay. And then as far as your opinion, so you have a few uncles. Can you just tell the listeners, how would you rank me in terms of like best to worst in terms of your uncles?
Bottom of the barrel.
Bottom of the barrel?
Bottom of the barrel.
Wow. Okay.
Doesn't get much worse than this.
Well, hopefully I will... I'll redeem myself. So, all right. So, JT, the reason I asked you to do this, So You Wanna, is because me and you hiked the Wildcats in October of last year. So we did a fall foliage hike, and I figured I'd just grab you. You're coming back from your big college decision, so you're going to be a freshman next year at the University of Southern Maine.
That is correct.
That's very good. And I figured that we would just do a quick recording. You've always been fascinated by the podcast, so
right. Super fan over here.
Exactly. So are you going to, now your girlfriend is also a super fan. Is she going to be super jealous that you've been able to get on the podcast?
I think so. I'm going to bring this to school tomorrow or on Monday, and this is some stuff to talk about. Right.
Yeah. I'll give you the audio track so you can preview it. So
yeah.
All right. So enough of that, JT. It's nice to get to know you. Actually, I will say one of the fun fact about JT is that he does have a trail name. So I don't have a trail name at this point. But JT, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about your trail name and talk about what your memory is on how you were given your trail name?
So this is one of the first times we hiked do you remember what mountain it was? I don't remember.
I think we were going to...
It might not have even been like a
mountain. I can't remember. It might have been the Moats. I can't remember.
I don't know. It was a smaller little hike in.
I think it was the Moats.
Was it? Okay.
South Moat, yeah.
Okay, so we were just talking conversation. It was like my first hike, and we were like, and you were telling me about trail names, and I'd never heard it. It was so foreign. And you were like, people have trail names that other people give to them. Like they just come to them, and it makes sense. It fits the person. And we were trying to think of one for some time, and it came to you because I was drinking. We stopped before, and I was drinking like the red Powerade, like the fruit punch, and
And I think that what happened is that I feel very strongly that you should only have the yellow-green Gatorade, but you will like the fruit punch. I was like, that's like a baby drink.
No, I think it's the best one.
You do, but I disagree. So then I called you. I just said that that's Hawaiian Punch nonsense. So I just called you Hawaiian Punch.
Right.
So that's now your trail name.
Yeah, which is I like that. I think the red one I think is the best. I think blue seconds, but I don't know where the green yellow one wouldn't even fall on my list. I don't think it's good.
All right. Well, we can agree to disagree. So, all right. So let's get into this. So a little bit about the Wildcats. So the Wildcat Range is part of the larger Wildcat Carter Mariah Range, which is nestled between Pinkham Notch and Carter Notch. So the Wildcats consist of 5 summits, each named using a letter, with Wildcat E being the southernmost summit and Wildcat A being the northernmost summit. Wildcat A and D are part of the New Hampshire 4,000-footer list because they meet the 200-foot prominence rules required to be considered for that list. Wildcats B, C, and E are considered sub-peaks. So what you'll have here with this hike is you got a fair bit of up and down when you go across the ridge. I'll talk about some alternative routes, but for the listeners here today, we are going to cover a route that requires a car spot. So we are starting at Pinkham Notch, and then we are going to the Lost Pond Trail, and then from there we are going to the Wildcat Ridge Trail, and then we cut over to the 19-mile Brook Trail. So it's so it's 3 trails and a lot of elevation that I'll talk about in a moment here. So, and then I'll cover some alternate routes in a minute, but some interesting historical facts about the Wildcat Range. So, Wildcat Mountain is home to one of the oldest ski areas in the country. The Wildcat Ski Area opened up in 1958 and was one of the first in the U.S. to have a gondola lift. This was a big deal at the time. So a gondola is an enclosed structure that protects you from the weather. So it brought people to the summit of Wildcat D, also called Wildcat Mountain, and helped shape the early history of American skiing. In addition to that, there is also an AMC hut. So the Carter Notch hut is the easternmost hut in the system and is open year-round. At a certain point, I think between 96 and 2006, it operated on a self-serve basis, but it has since resumed operating as a full-service hut during the summer season, remaining self-service the rest of the year. So the site's use as a shelter began in 1904 as a small log cabin, and then it was rebuilt in 1914, making Carter Notch the oldest building in the hut chain. There's 2 bunkhouses located a short distance from the main hut structure, right above the cliffs, and then the hut can be seen from the final summit on Wildcat A. So there's a couple of small ponds that are located nearby, as well as a huge boulder field. And Carter Notch basically helped establish the hut as a viable pursuit for AMC. And after it was sort of proven to be a success, the AMC began to plan out the entire hut system. So we'll touch a little bit about, at what point you can head over to the hut when we get through this. And the last interesting fact about the Wildcats is that it's part of the Appalachian Trail. So the Appalachian Trail runs right over the Wildcat Ridge, crossing Wildcats D, C, B, and A before descending into Carter Notch. Through hikers know this section for its steep scrambles and tough terrain, making it one of the more challenging stretches in New Hampshire. So I think it's considered the steepest section of the Appalachian Trail, JT. All right. And I always suggest, and JT used to make fun of me for this, but I always tell through hikers, make sure, or actually day hikers, I say bring snacks. I always bring extra Snickers or Milky Ways, just in case you happen to run into an AT through hiker, you can give them a little bit of trail magic, right?
Right.
And you used to make fun of me and say, like, that's so stupid. But then on the hike that we did, we ran into a through hiker and he was hungry and we gave him a Snickers bar.
It's a real thing, yeah.
Right. So now you don't make fun of me anymore over that.
No, I see it's a real thing now, and I respect it now. Although I've never actually, I have given people things because I did a hike in New Mexico, like with Boy Scouts, unrelated. But I saw people and I handed out things. I've never been handed anything.
You haven't?
So no, I haven't been on the receiving end of that. So I have my doubts, but
all right. Well, when you get a little bit older, a little bit more experience, I'm sure somebody will give you something.
Maybe.
So, all right. So anyway, bring some extra snacks for the through hikers because there will be a fair amount of them out there, and you can usually tell that they're through hikers by the smell, or sometimes they'll have a tag on their backpack that says they're through hikers. So, location, how to get there. So, in order to get to the Wildcats, the trailhead location is off of Route 16 in Pinkham Notch. So Pinkham Notch is an AMC visitor center. It's the jumping off point for hiking Mount Washington as well as the surrounding peaks. A lot of parking in there. You usually won't have a problem with parking. You do have bathroom facilities in there. You have food facilities, and if you forget some gear, you can actually get some gear in there as well. So, Pinkham Notch is like a fully supplied food area and a hiker supply area, so you're in good shape. So, just head into that Pinkham Notch parking lot and take your pick on where you're going to park. And from there, in order for you to get to the trailhead to start this hike, we're going to be going up the Wildcat Ridge Trail. So you're going to exit the Pinkham Notch parking lot from the main entrance, and then you're going to cross Route 16 and then walk a little bit towards the south, and then you'll see a trail sign that points to Wildcat Ridge and Lost Pond. So that's when you're going to start your hike. And basically you'll start the hike at the first sign that's marked there, and you'll see there's an Appalachian Trail symbol on the sign, and that will direct you to the Lost Pond Trail. Now, Lost Pond Trail it's a little under a mile of flat hiking before you get to the junction of the Wildcat Ridge Trail. So do you recall anything when we did that first section? I took a couple of pictures of you guys, and there's like a little pond there that's got good opportunities for some photos, right?
Yeah, the photos are beautiful that day. There was like just the fall foliage was amazing. I remember that a lot.
Right, yeah.
The tree, the color of the leaves was amazing.
Yeah, we did do this like right in peak fall foliage, and I recommend this as a fall foliage hike because
Beautiful.
Yeah, exactly, because you're kind of lower down in the notch, so you're immersed into the foliage, and then you could look down south into the notch, and then also north. So it's got really spectacular views of fall foliage. So anyway, we did the mile hike on Lost Pond, and then from there you're going to take a left, and that's when you get to the Wildcat Ridge Trail, which is a 5-mile section of trail that gains about, I think, 3,000 feet of elevation or so, give or take a little bit, probably a little bit more, and that's where you basically ascend right away when you get to that that section, and you'll go about a mile of steep climbing. You'll gain, I think, over 1,000 feet of elevation in less than a mile. And then from there, you'll start to make your way up to some ledges where you'll get some viewpoints. And that's when you can look down into Pinkham Notch. And I'd say before you actually get to those lower ledges, there is one section that's like a chimney section that you have to scramble up. Do you remember scrambling up that?
Yeah, those steep section.
Yep, it was steep, and then you had to kind of use your hands and feet to get up there. So
yeah,
a little bit of scramble. I got some good photos of you guys and video coming up.
It was a sweaty couple,
Yep,
mile or so.
Yep, JT's a sweaty kid, so he was struggling hard with the elevation.
I run hot.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, you do. And then, so basically about a mile of steep elevation. Do you remember this is where we ran into that thru hiker guy?
Yeah, I remember him.
And he was like starving. He was like, I need food. So we directed him down to Pinkham Notch and gave him some food. And then he was very late in the year for him to be going southbound. But I think he actually, I did see online that when we saw him, he was heading down to Pinkham Notch. About a month later, he had made it down into Connecticut or New York.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
He was going kind of slow. I don't think he was in any rush.
No.
So, but yeah, so you'll make your way up, and then I think before you get to Wildcat E, which is the first summit or the first official summit of or sub peak of the hike, you'll see a couple of different outcroppings, and generally those views look south into Jackson, down into Pinkham Notch, and you can see some really good views there. There are a couple of ledge scrambles that I think you had to do like your hands and feet, but was there any time that you were like really nervous about like the steepness or anything?
No, not really. No, I trusted your judgment with my skill at the time. It was definitely a difficult. Like the steep parts were super steep and pretty difficult, but it was, just take a couple breaks here and there and it was fine.
Yep. Yep, exactly. And then there is a water source right below the first set of ledges. If you wanted to kind of go light and grab a water source, I remember on the left-hand side there was just a little bit of there's like maybe 100 feet of trail, and you can get water right there. A little bit of a waterfall that comes through. I don't know how long if it runs dry in the summer or not, but really not a lot of options for water past that section. So I would definitely recommend people load up on water before and make sure they have enough, probably about 1.5 liters or so to get through that section. So anyway, so you make your way across. It's basically a very steep part. It starts to level off. You get a couple of views, like I said, down into the southern Pinkham Notch and looking into Jackson. And then you'll finally reach Wildcat D, which is essentially, it's a platform view, but you also, before you get to that platform view, you can hang out at the top of the chairlift, and there's like an open area there, and you'll see other hikers hanging out there, and then you'll also see some hikers that come up from the Polecat Trail, which is a ski trail that you can hike up. And do you recall we had kind of a funny situation happen up there when we were waiting by the ski lifts with the two different dog owners?
Yeah,
do you remember what happened?
I don't remember all the details, but some dog ran up to like this couple and their dog, and the guy was like, "Keep your dog away from my dog," with a couple explicitives.
Yeah, they were fighting and arguing, and we were like sitting there with our popcorn waiting for them to fight.
It was entertaining. It's kind of nice, after you get to the top and you see it's just some entertainment. It's nice. Right.
And you actually missed that because you were behind me. You missed the funniest part of that whole thing was the guy who had his dog. So what happened was there was a guy that had his dog off leash, And then there was another guy and his wife that came up, and they had their dog on a leash, and the dog off leash was like running around chasing the dog.
Yeah.
And the guy that had the leash dog was like, you need to control your dog. Like, my dog doesn't like other dogs. It was a whole thing. And we were just sitting there. But before that happened, the guy that had his dog off leash, he was sitting there by himself, and I came up, and it was just me and him. And I just walked right up to him, and I was like, I've been meaning to speak to you about your extended warranty. And he just looked at me. He's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, it's a joke. And he didn't get the joke, and it was very awkward.
Yeah, that's. I don't think I was there for that, because I think I was a little behind you.
Yes.
I was still coming. I did see the dogs. I remember you telling me about that, and I was like, that's awkward to hear about.
Yeah. But thank God that dog started fighting, so he forgot about that. So, but that section right there is nice because you can get some views. You get a picture of the Wildcat sign, and then you've got views of Mount Washington, like right out.
That's where we saw the was he hang gliding?
Yeah, we saw hang gliders
way over
Mount
by Washington.
Yes. So it was a spectacular day. So once you clear the summit section, you get your pictures. Then you go up, there's a little platform that's like the official summit for Wildcat D. And then from there, it's about 2 miles of hiking across the ridge with basically you're going up and down. We call those the pointless up and down. So I think you're at 4,062 feet at the platform. Then you climb up to Wildcat C to 4,280 feet. And then you get to Wildcat B, which is 4,305 feet. The trail was pretty clear. There wasn't a lot of blowdowns, any issues. I went back up there over this winter, and there was a fair amount of blowdowns that are coming in. And then at the end of that 2 miles, you finally get to Wildcat A, which is 4,422 feet. So once you get to Wildcat A, there's a view that looks down into Carter Notch, and that's when you can actually see the top of the hut, and you can see the 2 ponds that are right there. And then in a clear day, you can see across to the trail that ascends Carter Dome. And then that's where, if you wanted to continue on, you'd go into the Carters and the Moriah section of the hike. But we decided to just keep it to the Wildcats.
Yeah.
Yep. You remember that view looking down into the hut? Yeah,
it was a pretty steep down, and then from where we were facing to the right.
Yeah.
It was just the top of it,
I always think of that view, to me, reminds me of like Lord of the Rings. Stomp always talks about like Lord of the Rings.
That's right. You said that.
Yeah,
you said that.
It looks like that. So it's a good view. And then from there, you're basically at the high point where you're going to be on this hike, and then from there it's a very steep descent.
Yeah.
I think you drop about 1,200 feet of elevation into Carter Notch, and that's basically the end of that 5-mile section of the Wildcat Ridge Trail. And from there, for this one, we spotted a car at 19 miles. So essentially, we had one car at 19 Mile Trailhead, which is about 2 or 3 miles down the road from Pinkham Notch, and then we parked at Pinkham Notch. I generally recommend doing that if you can swing it. If not, then you can do an out and back, and you basically just turn around and follow the same path down and descend down. The Wildcat Ridge is pretty steep to descend, so you have to be comfortable. Make sure you do it on a nice day, and the ledges aren't wet or anything like that, because you don't want to go down those wet.
Yeah.
But we descended down into Carter Notch, and that section there is probably, you get to the end of Wildcat Ridge. That section's maybe about a half a mile of steep descent. And then from there, you can either take a left and go 19 Mile Brook out to the parking lot, or you can take a right and go into Carter Notch Hut. So Carter Notch Hut is maybe 3/8 of a mile from that trail junction, I would say. So on that day, JT was being weak and he wanted to get home, so we decided to skip the hut.
Right.
You remember talking about that?
Yeah, no, I was just too much for me,
Yeah, you were tired.
Yeah.
You were tired.
Right.
No, I think we just decided. Matter of fact, I think in my mind, I was looking, so we had Caroline and Devin, my daughter and her boyfriend, and then JT, and I was just thinking, like, everybody was feeling really good, and I just thought that it was better to just keep going and just take advantage of it, because 19 Mile is a little bit of a grind.
Yeah.
It's not too steep or anything, but it was good. We probably had, I think, about 3.5 miles to go from that section. So I thought, like, let's get rolling. But if you did want to stop over there, like Carter Hut has like privies, it's got amenities, you got water there. So you could certainly stop off there. As a matter of fact, I did stop off. I did the same hike in the winter a couple of months ago, and I did stop off at the hut, which was a nice little adventure. Mm-hmm. So, but from there, you just go down 19-mile Brook Trail, which is a steady descent along a water source, so you can grab water if you need it. And generally, it's a pretty easy hike down. You get a lot of traffic on this section because people are hiking up to stay at the hut overnight, and typically, yeah, you'll get a lot of crowds there. You'll have people that are going up to climb the Carters, as well as they go up the Wildcats on the backside that way. So we made our way out of there, and yeah, that was basically it. So to summarize, I think the Wildcats, like I said, the big piece of it is, start at Pinkham Notch, you get a flat mile on Lost Pond. Then from there, you've got a steep section for about 1.5 miles. The biggest issues with that steep section, I think, are the chimney, which is down kind of in the lower section. And then you've got, I think, 2 open ledges that you've got to get across that I don't think are that bad. I recommend this hike as a fall foliage hike 100% because you're down into a notch. You can look either direction into the notch and get spectacular views.
Amazing. That was the best I've ever seen, honestly.
Oh, by far. And then when you're up top by the ski area, you've got amazing views of Mount Washington and the Presidential Range. And then when you get off the backside, you've got awesome views into Carter Notch and the larger Carter Range. So a lot of views, a lot of good photo opportunities. And generally, I would say this is a tough hike just because of the elevation gain on Wildcat Ridge. Yeah,
it's tiring for a little bit. It's just so steep.
Yep, it sure is. So anything else, JT? Any other memories or advice that you have for people on the Wildcat Ridge hike?
I mean, definitely. I know we said a bunch of times, but it's just the fall foliage. It's just so beautiful there. It's just amazing to see because like you said, you look literally either way, left, right, and there's just so much. Just the trees, just the color is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Year. I think it was a lucky year for us though too. There was a lot more of the color in the trees, I think.
I think
Caroline
so. Yeah, it was a good foliage year for sure. And I've hiked this. I think the fall is a good time. I think that winter is fantastic. Like I've done this hike where I've gone up Polecat, which is the winter trail. So essentially, if you're going to do this in the winter and you want to go Polecat, we did the same hike. We spotted a car at 19 Mile, which I recommend you do. It's just for this particular hike, it's better to do a point to point. For winter, if you go up Polecat, all you really need to do is just park at the Wildcat Ski Resort and then make your way over the bridge to the ski mountain, make your way all the way to the left and just follow the signs for Polecat. And it's a really nice hike because you just put your snowshoes on, you put your elevators on your snowshoes almost the whole time, and you're just climbing up. And you get that way going up Polecat, you get nonstop views of the Presidential Range the whole time. So you just have to be careful. You have to get up above the ski lift in the winter by 8 a.m. So you have to leave probably like 6:30 or so at the latest. Okay. It takes maybe an hour to get up there. So 6:37 at the latest.
Yeah.
So, but that's it, JT. So you did wonderful. I appreciate you joining us for the Wildcat episode of So You Wanna, and maybe we'll have you do another one in the future.
Yeah, maybe. Well, thank you for having me.
All right, you will be invited back. You did so well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to learn more about the topics covered on today's show, please check out the show notes and safety information on slasrpodcast.com. That's SLASR podcast.com. You can also follow the show on Facebook and Instagram. We hope you'll join us next week for another great show. Until next time, on behalf of Mike and Stomp, get out there and crush some peaks.